So, no, it wasn't inappropriate. It's a valid question, as you said. Yes. What will happen to us? Very valid. So, so your guru, obviously didn't think it was inappropriate because he
Mm-hmm.
answered it. He
Yeah,
answered. And if he thought it was inappropriate, he wouldn't have answered, right?
yeah, yeah. He's very very into this, we can say, maybe technical things about the etiquette, what is appropriate, how things should be done, what is the proper attitude of the Vaishnavas. And I am pretty sure, like you say, if he feels that the question was inappropriate, he will say, maybe you shouldn't ask your guru that, or things like that, But
Mm-hmm.
he answered, and it's a reality that we constantly live with. Last year, I mean, every year after God Purnima, a group of my God brothers and God sisters, they organize this. They call it the safari, to go traveling in India for about 3 weeks and come back for his Vyasa Puja. And last year they went to Vrindavan, and he got so terribly sick that he has to spend like months and months in Vrindavan. And he was becoming anxious. He wanted to come back to Mayapur, and he couldn't. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, we took him in the safari." Of course, he doesn't go like before, you know, but still, so it's a reality. And I think we should be um, mature enough to understand that it's a reality that sooner or later it is going to happen.
Yeah. Yes. I think you're right. When we never thought Srila Prabhupada was going to leave. I mean, there were many of us that never thought it because we were so young. I was only 21 when Prabhupada left. And the reality was, I never thought he would leave. And we didn't have cell phones and computers. And, it was all by word of mouth and also telegrams. It wasn't, we didn't have a lot of communication around the world. So word of mouth and telegrams, and we would go through the operator and ask for somebody long distance, so we didn't have to pay for the call. And we would find out if it was a codicy by saying, is it, because Prabhupada said, if it's a codicy in Mayapur, it's a codicy all over the world. So we would call and say, is Ekadasi there? Right. So if Ekadasi was there, and they would say, yes, Ekadasi's here today. Okay, then we knew it was a codicy in Philadelphia or wherever we were living, And so this is how we would do things. It was a whole different universe when we were young in the movement. So, we just learned how to deal without cell phones and computers. But things are different now. And I'm sure, like you said, if your guru thought it was an inappropriate question, he wouldn't have answered it. I know that one time Vaisheshika Prabhu was giving class in Mayapur, and someone asked him a question that was a bit, shall we say, on the edge, a little political. And he just looked at him and said, next question. And then he turned and, and
Yeah,
he got the next question. He just didn't even want to deal with it. So they have a way of getting around it, the gurus, if they don't want to
yeah,
answer a question.
exactly.
Yeah, they're not going to allow themselves to be on a hook, dangling on a hook if they don't want to answer. So, yeah. So I think your guru said it all when he answered the question. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? Does anybody have an experience of caring for a sick or dying devotee that they would like to share with everyone? A personal realization from caring for someone. Doesn't have to be a congregation member, it could be a family member.
I do.
Okay. And tell your name and where you're from.
Okay, I'm Shalagram Devi Dasi, and at the present moment, I'm working with Devotee Care in Alachua. But so during this occurrence, I was in Vrindavan, which is where I spent most of my devotional career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this was with Mother Leela Shuka, Devi Dasi, also a Prabhupada disciple. We had gathered at her house on a Thursday for Thanksgiving just to do some bhajans and to give thanks. And that was a Thursday. And Friday, she was rushed to the hospital with a brain aneurysm. And so, by Krishna's grace, I was asked could I accompany the ambulance, and go with her to the hospital. So I agreed, of course. And anyway, she had to be transported to another hospital by air. And so I drove. And from there, it was just, giving the information and getting in touch with her kids. One was in Portugal and different things like that. But
Wow.
the thing was is that so they hooked her up and did what they needed to do to try to assess the situation, and that went on for about 3 days, and I stayed there the whole time. Um,
Mm.
and as time went on, they realized. I mean, they put in some kind of mechanism. They did what they needed to do, and
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, the children decided, just to because they said that her speech was definitely impaired. She couldn't open her eyes anymore either for some reason, and but anyway, as time went on, the hearing was still there, but she wasn't responding.
And you said this was a brain aneurysm?
Ma'am, yeah.
Okay. All right.
And so I was there with her, and I was in the ICU room, and I hear the lady in the next cubicle over call the nurse saying she wants to go for a walk down the hall. So the nurse came, and I see her pass by our door, and she's holding onto the IV pole, and she's walking with the nurse, spotting her. And then my eyes went to the next room over, and I see a gentleman in the bed, and he's talking to someone against the other wall, which I can't see. And then my gaze goes to our dear Leela Shuka, and I just said, Krishna, when is your servant of the servant going to be able to at least do that? Like, we'll take that, walking down the hall with an IV, or talking to us,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I went to her bedside, and I just put her hand in mine, and we have kirtan going on and Prabhupada chanting and different things 24/7. And so there was this kirtan going on, and I just got enveloped in the kirtan myself, and for some reason I just said, Leela, let's dance, right? And she started tapping in my hand the 1, 2, 3 beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got like really excited, right? Because
Yeah.
we had, she hasn't, said, or, there's been little, sign of, anything, right? Except drool coming down the mouth that we would have to, tend to and things like that. But so she started tapping. And so I got fired up. So I started singing more, and
Yeah.
then her feet at the bottom of the bed, what we call windshield wiper feet, going back and forth. So her feet
Yeah.
started going back and forth. So I got even more ecstatic. And then the nurse came by and she goes, "Oh, you guys are rocking out in there." I was like, "Yeah, come join us." I was like, and it was just like Krishna was telling me, that don't lament for my devotees. Yes, all that individual has at the moment is her IV pole, etc. But Leela Shuka Prabhu has the holy name, right? And
Yes.
yeah, so just really, really, just Krishna just turned it around, even for me as a caregiver, And so I'm trying to hold that as a truth now, for for everyone that I know is in a compromised situation. Yeah. So,
Mhm. That's a great story. Thank you
yeah.
so much. Thanks for sharing that. I think I met her, but I'm not sure. But I may have had something to do with her a long time ago. She was a really sweet devotee. Yeah. New Vrindavan diehard. Very much New Vrindavan.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well,
And
Krishna also allowed me to bring her ashes to Vrindavan. I did both, some in Ganga, in the Ganga and Mayapur, and then went to Vrindavan and did there also.
wow. That's great.
The
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anybody else have a story they want to share?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
We have a situation here in our Toronto temple.
Mm.
We've had a few senior devotees who have dedicated a lot of their time and life to the service of our deities. So they've lived in practically like most of their lives in the temple,
Uh-huh.
and now they're older, and they have issues, health issues, and different problems which don't allow them like to kind of continue living at the temple or leaving their bodies at the temple because we do not have the right facilities. Although this is their desire, to leave their bodies at the temple, but unfortunately we cannot provide that. Like one of the devotees, he wants to fast until he leaves his body. He does not want, he has infections, but he doesn't want any treatment. He just said, I don't want to go to rehab. I just want to go to the temple and like leave my body. And
Yes.
and we're saying, yeah, like we were going back and forth and saying, yeah, but we don't have the facilities, we don't have the trained devotees, we don't have the right room with the private washroom and this, because, for different reasons. But and another devotee who's a Prabhupada disciple, and he's lived practically all his life at the temple and served the deities. He's now in a wheelchair, and we don't have accessibility at the temple for him. Like,
Oh, Krishna.
there's no accessible rooms, anything, and that's his only desire to just be back. He's in a hospital right now, and he will be discharged soon in a few days. And he's like, I want to go to the temple, but we're like, sorry, we don't have the right facilities for you. So it's just really,
So
it's
where's he gonna
really,
go? Where
so
will you
he's probably
go?
going to go in a long-term care facility. And
Oh, no.
and it's such a sensitive point for me. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little emotional, but these devotees have dedicated their whole lives.
I know. I
This is,
know. I can't stand it.
what can we do to help them?
I know.
To
I agree. I agree. I get just as upset about it. I can't stand it, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, is he willing to relocate somewhere?
Well, I guess they'll do whatever they will be told. Like they can't really fight it, right? So, but I know that their ultimate desire is to be back at the temple and just,
But he would rather it was the Toronto temple. He really doesn't want to go somewhere else, right?
yeah.
Yeah, see. I mean, there's no room on the ground floor that's
They're
wheelchair accessible.
not really. They're building an elevator, but it's still gonna take time. And
Well, how long will that take?
there's ashram and washrooms outside of that ashram, and there's only one room on the ground floor, which is a guest room with accessible, like with the private washroom, but it's always busy, and it's being booked for this event, different events, and etc. So it's like we don't really have.
Well, they have to, prioritize then, like, what's more important, to have a guest room for festivals or whatever, or have this be for devotee that has lived in the temple his whole life and is now facing, disability and the end of life, and a wheelchair, and needs a room to live in. I mean, you cannot put that devotee in a long-term facility where they don't have a vegetarian menu probably, and there's just so much wrong with that situation. So now there's two men that live there that need a room. Is that what's the
Yeah.
so
Well,
there's two.
yeah,
Is
one
that
of them just he's not leaving his body yet, but he's just in a wheelchair now. He cannot walk. He cannot be independent, so he needs help all
and then
the
the other
time.
one
And
is in
then
a
the other one
wheelchair?
just wants to fast and doesn't want to get any treatment for his infection. He just wants to leave his body at the temple.
Well, that's his right. It's in the seventh canto. I used to know the exact text. I think Lolita Priya there in Toronto knows the exact text and purport where Prabhupada talks about that. And, does he, I know he's just getting out of the hospital, but does he have a terminal illness or a chronic illness that would justify fasting till death?
He's like malnourished. He's always been eating less and less, so he's very very thin.
Yeah,
And
but that's not anything that can be fixed. I mean, does he have a disease
it
that,
can be fixed for sure. That's why they're suggesting rehab facility for him to, to
yeah,
improve his nutrition. But that's not his desire. He doesn't want to. He's like, I don't want to eat. I don't want. I just kind of I'm done kind of thing. So
yeah, but in the seventh canto, it talks about if you have a disease where you won't be able to render service anymore to the Guru and Krishna, then you can fast to death, but not just if you're kind of like down and out and you feel like, I don't want to live anymore. You're just sort of depressed. That's not really a reason to do that, you know. You have to read the purport and see how Prabhupada describes it. It's not because, he doesn't want to live anymore, therefore he's going to fast. That doesn't justify it. I'd have to know more of the situation and what his diagnosis is.
yeah.
Yeah. See, the two I was involved with, there was an actual disease process going on, and they weren't going to be able to have quality of life or render any service. So it has to be like that. It just can't be, I'm really fed up with living and I just want to fast to death. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I guess we can gather more information about that.
Can you call Lolita Priya and get the exact verse and purport in the seventh canto, and read it carefully and make sure that his situation uh, goes hand in hand with what Prabhupada's describing. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because it's not just, that he's kind of fried and doesn't want to live anymore. That's not what Prabhupada's talking about. Okay. There's got to be a disease process happening, and that there's not any quality of life, and that you wouldn't be able to render any service with this disease. So therefore you can fast to death. Okay.
Okay.
So we can go from there. First, get the exact text and purport and read it. And then if you want, we can talk about it from there once you've read it.
Okay.
Okay, and find out what his diagnosis is.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go from there. Anybody else?
know where you keep.
Pardon me? Did somebody say something to Ravel?
No, I'm not sure.
No?
It doesn't seem like anyone has any other questions.
Okay. Should we continue reading and for 10 minutes till the end? Does
If
anybody want to
nobody
do
has
that?
any questions, I'll chime in again.
Okay. Is
You
that okay?
you were you were talking about Tribhuvari Maharaj and the devotees who were spending all their time with him and they needed a break and you
What
stepped
was
in.
that?
You're the devotees that were taking care of, is it Tribhuvari Maharaj whose death you were present for?
No,
What was his name?
Kirtan Maharaj.
Maharaj.
that's a Tirtha Swami. Yeah,
Brahmatir. Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Prabhu. The
that's okay.
devotees who, you said the caretakers sometimes need to take care of themselves also.
Oh, you always have to take care of yourself when you're taking
I
care of
mean,
somebody. Please. Yeah.
how do you deal with the guilt of leaving, and then after you leave, they die, and you're not there?
Wait, you were kind of cutting in and out. Can you repeat that? How do you, something about guilt?
Deal with the guilt? Yeah. How do you deal with the guilt? You know that you left to take care of yourself, and then they passed away.
So if you
That
left the
maybe you should
patient's
have been there.
room, if you left the patient's room to do something for yourself and then they died at that moment, is that what you mean?
Yeah, something like that, or you left and and the next day they died, while you were gone.
Chances are that not going to happen, but if it did, um, and I would always leave Prabhupada chanting, just like with my godbrother Jayananda, the famous Jayananda from Rathayatra cart, Jayananda, where his picture is up there on every, it should be, Prabhupada wanted it on every Rathayatra cart in the world, right? So when he was dying in the Los Angeles temple, he was upstairs in his room and the devotees wanted to go to Mangal Artik. So they left a cassette, if everybody remembers those ancient little cassette tapes on of Srila Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna. And that was what he heard when he left his body. So I don't think the devotees felt guilty because they went to Mangal Artik and he was listening to Srila Prabhupada chanting when he left his body. Because in my book, The Final Journey, there's a letter from Srila Prabhupada that he wrote to Jayananda Prabhu after Jayananda left this world. And he said, since you were listening to the chanting of the holy names, you went back home, back to Godhead. So it, it was all good. It was all auspicious. And as long as we do that and we leave Prabhupada chanting in the room of the dying patient, even if we do take a break and leave the room, we leave them in good hands with Srila Prabhupada chanting the holy names. So even if they do leave this world while we're out for a few minutes taking a break, they'll still be with Srila Prabhupada and the holy names. So there's no guilt. You're leaving them in really good hands. Understand? Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, after taking care of so many patients who died, you'll be able to notice the signs when you know it's going to be any minute now. And so you're obviously not going to leave the room or leave their bedside when you know any minute they're going to leave, right? So you wouldn't go, take a break and go get a nice cold drink with some, whatever, and go get a bag of chips. And, you're not going to go do all that when you
This
know
is a
that
little
any minute they're going
different.
to leave. You know what I mean? So or go and take a nap, or, because you're going to be able to, you're going to get so expert at this service that you're going to know that that devotee is going to be leaving at any minute. And then you're going to stay there with them.
Yeah, this is a
Guarantee
little
it.
different. Um, the devotee recently passed, and when she was in the hospital, I got to spend 24, a little more than 20, almost 36 hours with her. And and at the time, we thought she was still going to get better. And but we put together a spreadsheet of people who wanted to help care for her. And it was meant to be for people who wanted to care for her, not to just visit.
Yes.
And so, and I was looking, and there were so many people who wanted to provide this service. I mean, to this devotee, and I felt that I should give other people an opportunity to provide this service. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I had spent quite a bit of time with her, and now it was time to let someone else have that opportunity. And before I left, she said, she told me, she said, that are you sure you want to leave? And she said, you can stay. And I said, there's so many devotees who want to come and see you and who want to render service, help take care of you, that I feel that they should have that chance. They should have that opportunity. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, I left, and it turned out that a lot of them, they didn't realize what the service actually was, that it was there just to be there in case she needed something, and to make sure that she heard Prabhupada's voice, and the chanting, and that for the most part you were quiet and you took care of yourself, you know,
Right.
unless she wanted to talk. And so it was more of a visiting thing. So it became it caused some difficulty for her because she felt she had to entertain the Vaishnavas.
Yes.
Her
That
and
becomes an issue. Yeah.
so she basically let one of the caregivers know that no, this isn't going to work. Right now, I can't have visitors. I need to rest, and I need to just focus on, you know,
Right.
dying. So things were arranged so that she could do that. And the devotees who were with her were, I mean, excellent in making sure that Krishna Priya had exactly what she needed in her final hours.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that they were the right devotees to be there. And it was Krishna's arranged everything to get who needed to be there with her.
Mm-hmm.
So 99% of me knows that and understands that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this little 1% that says she wanted you to stay and you left, and has that guilt. Even though I know that it's there's no need for it, it's still there.
Can I ask your name? Because I can't see you on the screen.
Oh, it's
And
Karuna Purnashakti.
oh, Karuna Purnashakti.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm not seeing your picture for some reason. Um, why aren't I seeing it? Um,
I,
I really wish you wouldn't feel like that, Karuna. I know she had a lot of support.
she did.
She had a lot of people. And, I got a note from Pure Krishna Maharaj that he was going in every day. He brought in the Vaishnava's care, spiritual care kit with all the items, the auspicious items. I mean,
Yeah,
I could not have asked for a more auspicious departure for her.
she had a
I,
glorious death. She had a
yeah,
glorious death. She really
yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
I really, really, really don't think there's any room for guilt here. I think you did an amazing job, and just feel good in that, and don't waste the time feeling guilty. There's
Thank you.
really nothing you can feel guilty about. Nothing. I think you did a really good job, and leave it at that. Just relish the time you had with her, and thank Prabhupada and Krishna for that seva, of taking care of a Vaishnavi and be happy. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful service. You got to do it, and other people got to do it, and she left happy, and they were happy.
Yeah.
Now you be happy. There's no reason to be guilty. For what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job. No guilt. I had a god sister who told me one time in Vrindavan, guilt is a waste of emotion. And you know what? It's so true. It really is. It's a waste. No guilt. Just relish what you did and thank Krishna and Prabhupada for giving you that service to a nice devotee. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You kind
Yes,
of went,
Madhaji.
okay. Okay,
I
good.
mean, yeah, it's like you said. I said, it's like 99% of me knows that and feels that. It's just that little 1%. It'll take time, but it'll get there.
Okay. We need to squash that 1%. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. All right. It's a quarter of anything else. Anybody? This is a confidential space, so feel free.
One one last thing, very quick. I know this is not the time and probably not the moment, but I am visiting a different temple right now. I am not in my home temple of New Talaban, but eventually I would like to be in touch with you, Sankita Mataji, to talk a little more in depth about creating facilities for the devotees, because it's so painful and it's so truthful that so many devotees, not only Prabhupada disciples, but disciples of his disciples, we are becoming old and giving the whole life to the movement, not having medical insurance, not having social security, not having families. It's very painful, the reality of the devotees getting old and sick. A few years ago, we have Prabhu who used to be married to Yamuna,
Yes, Gurdas Prabhu.
Guru Das. He had a proposal. He was in touch with the authorities of New Talaban. He wanted to establish a facility for dying devotees there,
Uh-huh.
because the land is so big. We are the second farm after Gita Nagari. We are the second biggest farm in the United States. It's so
Uh-huh.
much land. The weather is okay because the winters are very mild and short. But then I honestly don't know all the details. But then something happened. It was some technical issues because the land belonged to ISKCON, something like that. But everybody say it's a very nice place for retirement, and it will be perfect to create a facility for devotees. I know they have one. I know that San Dominic has a wonderful project.
Yeah.
Then it looks like it's adjacent to the temple. It's not in the temple per se property. So hopefully I can talk to you, more in detail, because like you say, sometimes these things are a little bit tricky and it can
Yeah.
become a little
Yeah.
difficult to discuss these things.
Yeah. But it can be done, it can be done. It doesn't have to be a huge facility. It can just have just for a couple of devotees. And we have to see, where are you, in Mississippi or Tennessee?
Yeah, Mississippi. We are
Mississippi.
in Mississippi. Yes.
So I can look up and see what the law is in Mississippi. Like in Pennsylvania, where I live, the law says we can have a building, like a house, with 2 bedrooms with 2 patients who are dying. And we don't have to follow, we don't have to have it like you know, a big legal with,
Yeah.
Medicare and all this, we could just have 2 patients. Like I have 2 extra bedrooms in my house. I can have 2 dying devotees, and it
Mm.
doesn't have
Yeah.
to be a legal, facility. So I can do that in Pennsylvania. So we have to look up and see in Mississippi what they would allow if they would
Okay.
allow a house with two patients, and we don't need to have it, Medicare and, all these legal
Yeah.
matters,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll allow that. And then we can go from there, because that's all you
Okay.
really need is a facility that would allow maybe two devotees at a time. I mean, how many devotees are you really going to have on that farm?
Mm-hmm.
No, probably no more than a couple at a time dying.
No.
So if what you want to do is start off by looking up online, just go to Google and say, what is the law in Mississippi for um, how many dying patients can I have in my home to take
Mm-hmm.
care of legally in Mississippi? And I can
Okay.
also look it up and see what I find. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Okay. Thank you so
and
much.
then you can let me know, text me and let me know, and then we can talk on the phone. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, anybody else?
Thank you so
No?
much, everyone.
Okay. All right, Sharavali.
It was a great session. Thank you. Thank you,
All
Donna,
right.
for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we'll
Everyone.
start again next Sunday when we're going to read.
Yeah, we're actually close to end, so probably
Yeah.
a few more sessions and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful, safe, and Krishna conscious week.
Jai.
And we'll
Thank
see you
you.
next Sunday.
Thank you. Haribo.
Okay, Hare
Haribo.
Krishna.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
glories
Hare
to Srila
Krishna.
Jai
Prabhupada.
Shri Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
Jai.
All of
Hare
everybody.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.